Look in the mirror for a second. Upright, big brain, walking around on two legs, on a planet full of animals that look nothing like you. Ever wonder how you actually ended up like this? It starts about 7 million years ago, somewhere in Africa. There's a creature that looks nothing like a human, small, hairy, walking on all fours most of the time. Honestly, if you saw it, you'd just think it was a weird ape. And in a lot of ways, it was. But this is the point where your story and the story of chimpanzees split apart. Before this, you and chimps share the same ancestor. After it, two completely different paths begin. Why would anything even start walking upright in the first place? It seems inefficient. Turns out it comes down to climate. Africa's forests were shrinking, grasslands were spreading, and walking on two legs was more energy efficient for covering long distances across open land. It also freed up the hands, and once your hands are free, everything starts to change. A few million years later, you get creatures like Australopithecus. You've probably heard of Lucy, the famous fossil discovered in Ethiopia in 1974. Lucy walked upright, but her brain was still tiny, about the size of a chimp's. No tools, no fire. Just surviving, walking around on two legs in a world still ruled by claws, speed, and size. Then, around 2.5 million years ago, something shifts. Brains start getting bigger. Not by a lot at first, but enough to matter. And with that comes stone tools, simple, sharp-edged rocks used to cut meat off bones. Doesn't sound like much, but think about what it actually means. For the first time, a species is using its mind to extend what its body can do. That's the beginning of technology. That's the beginning of us being different from every other animal on the planet. And once that starts, it builds on itself fast. Around 1.9 million years ago, Homo erectus shows up, and this is where things start feeling more familiar. Longer legs, more efficient walking and running, a noticeably bigger brain. And evidence they controlled fire. Fire changes everything. Warmth, protection from predators, and cooked food, which is easier to digest, which means more energy for the body to work with, including, eventually, growing an even bigger brain. It's this feedback loop. Bigger brain leads to better tools and fire, which leads to better nutrition, which leads to an even bigger brain. That loop runs for over 1 million years. Here's something that might surprise you. Modern humans weren't the only human species around. Not even close. At one point, several different human species were alive on Earth at the same time. Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Neanderthals across Europe and Asia. A tiny species nicknamed the hobbit, standing about 3.5 feet tall, discovered on the island of Flores in Indonesia. Denisovans, known mostly from a single finger bone found in a Siberian cave back in 2010. For most of human history, being human wasn't a solo story. It was a crowded one. So what happened to all of them? This is still one of the biggest open questions in evolution. Homo sapiens, us, show up around 300,000 years ago in Africa and slowly spread out. Into the Middle East, into Europe, into Asia. And everywhere we went, we ran into other human species who'd already been living there for hundreds of thousands of years. We didn't just replace them, we mixed with them. If you have European or Asian ancestry, somewhere between 1% and 2% of your DNA right now comes directly from Neanderthals. A species that went extinct around 40,000 years ago is still, quite literally, alive inside parts of you. Denisovan DNA still shows up in populations across Asia and the Pacific Islands too, including specific genes that help some Tibetan populations survive at extreme high altitudes today. This isn't something sitting in a museum somewhere. It's written into living human bodies all over the world right now. Eventually, though, Homo sapiens became the only human species left. Nobody knows exactly why. Maybe it was our social structures, cooperating in bigger, more flexible groups. Maybe it was adaptability, being able to survive in almost any climate. Maybe it was slightly better tools, slightly better communication, slightly better luck. Probably some combination of all of it. But by around 40,000 years ago, we were the last ones standing. And once we were alone as a species, something remarkable happened. Cave paintings in France and Spain, some over 30,000 years old, showing horses, bison, handprints pressed onto stone. Carved figurines, early musical instruments made from bone. Burial rituals suggesting belief in something beyond just survival. This is when humans start looking less like clever animals and more like us, creatures capable of art, symbolism, imagination. All of it, the upright walking, the tool use, the fire, the bigger brains, the art, the language, this unbroken chain stretching back 7 million years, had to go exactly right for you to be here right now. A different climate shift, a mutation that didn't happen. One ancestor who didn't survive one harsh winter. And none of this exists. You don't exist. Every person you've ever met is the result of an unbroken chain of survival running back millions of years, through ice ages, through predators, through other species of humans who didn't make it. That's happening in you, right now, as you sit here watching this. So next time you catch your reflection, you're not just looking at a person. You're looking at the current chapter of a story that started with a small, hairy creature in Africa 7 million years ago. A story that outlived ice ages, outlived other species, and somehow made it all the way to you.